Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and this is Create Your Own Cozy. Guys, it's here. The 2025 IOD summer release is here. I am going to attempt to make multiple videos. So this is part one of hopefully at least two IOD release videos. I got inspired by two transfer books and my new favorite stamp from the new release. If you want to see what I come up with, stick around. First, I want to show you Sarah Featon's Botanicals. It is one of the smaller ones, the 8x12, but there are 8 sheets, and you can see the scale of these is great for small projects with a couple of larger ones. And then the vibe is super vintage with like some deep greens too with the leaves. I really love this one. And then the next one, Menagerie. Guys, there are a total of 11 birds. And you can see the beautiful cages and the branches and the little fruit. Like, it's just so pretty, guys. I think this is also gonna, those birds right there are my favorite. It's official, they're my favorite. Now, this is called the Waltz, and can't you just see this on so many projects? Well, let's go ahead and get started with project number 1 for this week's video. I got 2 picture frames that were just in my stash. I'm pretty sure I paid like $1 each for these, and I got a little rough with the second one, taking it apart. It didn't quite, what I should have done is pulled the little piece out of the back, but the glass did not want to move by it, and I tried to force it, and boom, I cracked it. But no worries, I'm going to do one with the glass in and one with the glass out. I could have put a decoupage medium over the top of it, but I didn't in this case, and I think they both look great. So I'm going to go over both of these frames with 2 coats of Gypsy green in DIY paint, which is one of my favorite green colors. I feel like it goes well throughout spring, summer, and fall, dare I say. So I'm going to go 2 coats of this, and I am not going to try to wet distress to get any of this gold back. I am going to go over it with clear wax to seal in my paint, and then I'm going to go over it with dark wax so that it has this vintage vibe. The reason I wanted to keep a vintage vibe is I'm using old yellowed book pages, and I wanted it to look, I don't know, like you found this at an estate sale. This fun little collection of florals. So that was my goal here today. So I got this book page, cut it down to the size of the glass, and honestly, I picked a pretty unassuming floral, and I think it just looks like a pressed flower almost that you found in a book. And I don't know, I feel like just even this little unassuming one can now be a star. I use the transfer stick that comes in every pack to get it right onto the paper. And you have some pretty cute floral decor made with thrifted items and turned into high-end looking decor. Do you guys like this project? I thrifted this white stoneware pitcher not too long ago, and it had this mark in this little crack, but I could not leave it there, guys, because it was listed at $3, but I paid half off for this day, so $1.50. So what can I do to turn this into some gorgeous decor? Well, I went through the whole book and decided this was the one that got to make this one a star. Now I am going to do a lot of cutting up of the little ivies and make sure I use the movement of this to my advantage. The first thing I'm going to do is there's a little crack that it's not going to break again. It was just something that I didn't want to see, and I'm just going to put the transfer right over the top of it. And you can see that little yellow mark right there too. That's also something I'm going to make sure that I cover. So I am just going to use this to my advantage. I cut it up. I make sure I make little slits so that it's a little bit easier to do around a curved surface. Now, if you are new to transfers, I would not do a curved surface right away. But if you have never tried it before, it is possible, guys. The thing about transfers is once you put them down, you need to kind of commit. And if it rips apart, like if the other part is still on the backer sheet, you can just line that up and get them to look like they never even pulled apart from each other. So the big thing about curved surfaces is taking your time, making sure everything lines up. You can cut the back away, you can cut the front away. Do what you need to do to make it something that will work with you. And you can take a curved surface and make it look elevated. Take a look right here. The vine didn't quite match up. So what I'm going to do is grab the vine of another one, just take my little fingernail and scratch on the missing piece, and you will never even know it was missing from the other one, and it kind of makes yours look like there was never a problem in the first place. If you guys are new here, welcome to Create Your Own Cozy. I would love it if you hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and let me know you are here. I guess I'm going for some complicated vessels today because I'm using this galvanized canister that I thrifted for $2, but I like the way it looked as is and just thought it needed this beautiful floral in the center. But again, it's a ridged surface, so I'm just going to start at the bottom and work my way up, just making sure I take my time. There's no reason to rush these, and it allowed for this beautiful floral bouquet to be the center of attention on this galvanized bucket. You can see right here that this pink flower pulled apart from each other. That's okay. What I'm going to do is just realign it where it meets, and you can't even tell that there was a problem in the first place. Take your time, make sure stuff lines up, and then you burnish it on there. You don't have to do the next step, which I went over the whole thing with 220 grit sandpaper just to kind of age the transfer just a bit. If you don't like that, you don't have to do that step, but I just thought it brought out the ridges a little bit and added to the aged look of this piece. Right here, I was just using my fingers to make sure the transfer was in all the way and covered the whole thing with a clear wax to seal that transfer in there. And I feel like this is a nice high-end looking piece with just an add of a transfer. For project number 4, I had already gone over this thrifted oval bowl with one coat of the new Cottage color Veranda. It's the all-in-one paint, and you can see that even at the second coat I needed to stir it again, and I ended up doing 3 solid coats. I'm using this angled Klingon brush. The angle helps me do a nice crisp line around the edge. I'm really loving these Klingon brushes. They hold a lot of paint and they are so easy to clean. If you don't clean them right away, it's okay. You can just stick them in water and let them soak, and then the paint comes right off. I do not clean my brushes right away, so this has been a really good one for me. So I find a branch that I think will work in the bottom of this bowl, and then I do a dry fit to make sure it works prior to taking the backing off. And then I think I'm going to use this floral and realize that I would rather use a different one that has a little bit of greenery on it. So don't be scared to cut your pieces out and do a dry fit. It really does help when you are planning out your design. So after everything is in, the paint does not need to be sealed. It does have a top coat built in to the Cottage color paints, but the transfer needs to be sealed in. So I'm going to go over the whole thing with clear wax and kind of buff it out just a little bit so there's a little bit of a shine. And I do end up going over the whole thing with 220 grit sandpaper just so the transfer has a slight bit of age to it. Since this is not a brand new vessel, I didn't want it to look like brand new transfers, and I am really happy with the look of this upcycle. What do you guys think of this one? Project number 5 today, I'm gonna say it is already my favorite. I found this decor board, just raw wood, while I was thrifting and knew I had to use these new items on the decor board. The first thing I'm gonna do is take everything apart, and then I'm gonna use some Dark and Decrepit from DIY Paint. It is technically a top coat of a liquid patina with that dark look to it, but I'm going to put it on there and right away wipe it away. And it's a great way to have a water-based type of a stain and not have to deal with oils. So after I clean all that up and let that dry, I decide I want to use this beautiful new Waltz Stamp. Guys, it's my new favorite. I take off the back, 220 grit sandpaper. Just the first time you use it, I go each direction, and it allows for some tooth to the back of the stamp so that the ink has something to hold on to. So I'm going to use this mixing white ink. I'm going to ink up my pad and then decide where I want my music to start. Each of these 4 lines of music can be peeled away, or you can keep it as is, as it's on the sheet, so that it's properly spaced. So for the first one, I am going to just ink it up with the white. I'm going to make sure I wipe any away that I don't want to smudge with a baby wipe. And then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to press down evenly. And after I'm happy with that, pull straight up and you will see the beautiful background of music that I've already started for this decor board. Now the top one is a little bit shorter, so I went ahead and peeled that off, but I'm using it to space where I'm stamping the next pattern and just doing that again. And then I end up also adding one at the very bottom just so it doesn't look like one is missing and the pattern and the spacing is still right on. One of the hardest parts of this project was deciding which branches to use and how to lay them out on something that was so vertical. I wanted this bird cage to be hanging from a branch, but I couldn't make it make sense until I put the branch sideways. And once I figured that out, it all started to make sense. So I figured out where I wanted the branch. I ended up cutting off the little leaf right here because that would have gotten in the way of where the bird cage was going to hang. And then I decided where I wanted it cut off, where it was going to go off the side of the board, and I just sliced it just easily before I even put it on. You will see that I took the back off of one of the other birds in this book to see if I liked how it looked with the back off, and I didn't like it, so I just put the backing right back on. It is a good way to get a visual of what your final project would look like without the commitment. And then decided to use the other half of the twig on the bottom, and I thought, I'm not going to put the bird in the cage. I want it to be like this bird got to get out of its cage and have a little freedom and sat down right in front of the bird cage on a twig. So that is what I ended up with this one. I am so sure there are so many creative ways to arrange these beautiful birds and florals in cages. Guys, go make sure that you are part of my Create Your Own Cozy Facebook group because I want to see what you guys come up with, and it is a great way for you guys to share how you have used these new items and get to interact as well. You will see on this transfer that I end up with one of the little parts of the cage got pulled wrong and was missing from the transfer. I didn't want to go grab another piece of a cage from another transfer because that would ruin the other transfer, unlike the twig where I could just take the end of the twig. I ended up filling it in with a fine tip pen, and you couldn't even tell that there was a problem. I'm going over the whole thing with a coat of clear wax to just richen up the wood a little bit and seal in all the transfers. I added some twine and a little greenery, and I think this is such a special piece. What do you guys think? Did you guys get inspired to try one of these as well? The great part is there are 10 more birds. The music stamp, I can use that indefinitely, which is such a great value. And there are more cages, so I can do way more of this in the future. I'm so excited to play with these. All right, guys, did you have a favorite project from today's video? I know that new Waltz Stamp is going to be standard in my arsenal. Gosh, I can just imagine so many fun multimedia projects, pieces of furniture, just a background for transfers and molds. Oh, just beautiful. It did take them a while to finally do it, but they did it. We have a stamp with music. I'm so excited for this one. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite new product was from this release. I would love to hear. A lot of times in the beginning, us as stockists, we make our choices, but I want to hear from you guys what your favorite was from this new release. Also, if you are new here and just checking me out for the first time, please consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell all so you get notified every time I upload a new video. If you need any of the paint or IOD products, don't forget I have a website, www.createyourowncozy.com, where every purchase helps my little small business flourish. I also have 2 in-person IOD locations. The first is Angry Mama's Antiques and Interiors, the Ball Ground location. And the second is Soul Sisters Antiques up in Dawsonville, Georgia. If you want to get your hands on these today, go ahead and visit those places. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Do not forget with this new release to have some items that you're making that feed your creative soul and do what you want to do. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I will see you guys in the next video. Also, don't forget to check out the Iron Orchids Designs playlist that I will have in my description, which will show you a bunch of creators who have already played with these items to get you inspired so that you know the items that you want to grab. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check me out over at createyourowncozy.com.